apologies first for I find it very hard because there's lots of policies we can all speak about, and the likes of the drugs policy has many, many threads. Decrim is one of them, blood-borne viruses, family support, suicide, dual diagnosis, imprisonment, women and family. Every single department in this house is affected by drug use. Every single organisation that works in communities is affected by drug use. It's everybody's issue. It's not just the services that provide addiction support. It seeps into everything. Whether you're working for Bernardo's, whether you're working with women, whether you're working with children in care, whether you're working with the prison system. It features everywhere. But then when I speak about it or I try and platform it, it doesn't feel like it's felt everywhere. I think intellectually people know, but they don't go home to their own communities and not be able to do a 360 without seeing the pain, seeing the harm, seeing the misery, seeing the deaths. So I find it very hard to come in here then and speak on policy and then to allow it to seep into me that there's not a hierarchy. There has to be a hierarchy because a decision gets made. People sit around the table and decide what goes first. It wasn't picked out of a hat. So there's a conversation that happens at the table that decides what goes first. So all I hear, and all people like me and my communities hear, is we weren't top of the agenda. That people don't really, truly understand what's going on in communities. There's families in my communities that have to teach their 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old children what the recovery position is. There's women in their 70s that have to go in the morning and check if their son's chest is rising and falling to make sure he didn't slow down his breathing from his benzo use in the middle of the night. Drug use exists in all postcodes, all counties, I get that. But for some of those people, they can point to the people that are impacted. I can point to the people that are not impacted. And that's the difference. The difference is, for me and my community, it's not the exception that you're affected by drugs or drug use. It's not the exception that you know not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4 people that have died of overdose. It's the rule. It's the norm. And that's the difference between the experience I'm trying to put forward and for people not to dismiss by saying, oh, we all understand addiction. I'm not saying they don't, but it's very, very different in how it's presented in particular communities. When I worked in the drug sector, I remember standing every year in Dolphin House while they called out the names of every single person that died. There was 2 or 3 women that 4, 5 and 6 of their children were dead. All their children. They had outlived all their children. They'd all died of drug use. So for every one person that someone in this chamber can point to that they know has had an addiction, there's some women that have lost every single one of their children to addiction or to prison or to criminalisation. There's women that have found their children hanging from the rafters because they can't get access to cocaine services for nasal cocaine use. They can't get therapeutic services. The deaths in our communities are huge, and it's also a women's issue. It's massively a women's issue, and in the last few weeks all I've been hearing about is platforms for women and women's issues. But I'll tell you now, 33% of the 400 people that access crack cocaine services in Tallaght are women, and majority of them are mothers. Where are their advocates, and who is fighting for their platform? And this Citizens' Assembly for us was that space to make that happen. And although people would say it's going to happen in autumn or it's going to happen in 2023, we're measuring that in lives. Yes. We're measuring it in the loss of our families and our communities. So every single second and every single day that the discussion is not happening, services can barely keep their doors open. We keep talking about the cost of living. Nobody discusses the fact that services are having to keep their rads off to keep service provision going for people that need intervention for drugs because they can't pay the ESB and provide the interventions. There's services that are doing nothing but administration trying to find funding to actually do the interventions. The Simon report said that 70% of its detox service users that experience homelessness, 70% of them are homeless because of drug addiction. So for me, every single department and every single issue is somewhat affected by drugs issue, but I don't see where it's being prioritised. I think one of the hardest few months I've had in this chamber since I've came in is the last 2 months. It's the last month since the health committee that looked at the drug strategy. When I seen, because all the hope that I had, the little bit of hope that I had, that my time here could be worth something, I have regretted so many times becoming educated. Imagine that. I'm like, I don't want to have this consciousness and this awareness that this is how badly we're being failed. Imagine me wanting to go back to the moment where I decided not to be a problematic drug user. Because do you know what? When I was, at least I really didn't understand or see the fact that we are being failed at a systematic level. That I wasn't a failure for being a drug user. None of my friends were failures for being drug users, but we were being failed at a much higher systematic violence on our communities. And the moment you have that awareness and consciousness, you can't go back and learn that maybe it was in your power to do something differently. And that's where I'm at today after 6 years in this chamber, when the Citizens' Assembly is not being called. We have a drugs minister that doesn't understand this brief. I just feel like no one cares and no one's listening. And now I'm just at the stage where I'm actually going, just please help us. Someone actually help us. And I've moved past being a politician to just being actually in the point of despair. So I would ask people to vote for this amendment. We shouldn't be looking at Lord Mayor in this round. We just shouldn't. We just shouldn't be doing it. Have a councillors' assembly. I find another way to have that. But we have an urgency and we need to save lives, and we're making a decision that there's a hierarchy, and we're choosing not to do it now. That's a decision. It's a decision on behalf of the government.